25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. It's time for Damage Control. Joe Reichel is in the studio, and he's going to tell you what he does over at Damage Control Services when he gets one of those calls from a frantic female with a flood or anybody really with some kind of damage. And today, Joe has a guest. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. I like how you tied in my tagline. A good referral for me is always that frantic female with a flood.
Right.
So, yeah, any type of disasters, that's what we take care of. Fires, floods, storm and tree damage, things that you'd call your insurance company for as a general construction company and disaster restoration. We're able to take care of these types of problems. But one thing that Mike and Rob and I are doing is expanding our services, trying to stay current with times and being able to at the same time, cutting edge, and then also being able to offer services kind of in a related area, but yet something that's going to help out our clients even more. And that's why I've got a special guest with me today, John Barton.
Okay.
He's with MedEffect and MedEffect Solutions, and he's going to be telling about a new service that we're going to be able to offer.
Something medical? Is that where the name implies, or am I on the wrong track?
It's an infection control product.
An infection control product?
That's correct.
Okay. We're all ears.
All right. Basically, MedEffect Inc. is a specialist in infection, pathogen, and mold control. We've been in business for about 5 years. Most of our activity in the past number of years have been in critical environments, which would include pharmaceutical, biotech, and medical device. But in the last couple of years, with the emergence of the multi-drug resistant pathogens that are becoming so prominent, such as MRSA and Clostridium difficile and others that are major health concerns, we've moved into more healthcare environments such as hospitals, assisted living nursing homes, long-term care, other long-term care facilities, surgical centers, medical transport, blood and dialysis centers. These products are intended to mitigate and decontaminate these facilities by using a revolutionary new hydrogen peroxide fogging device. Hydrogen peroxide's been around for many years. I'm sure you're familiar with it. You can purchase a 3% bottle in the drugstore, and you can use it for a variety of decontamination activities.
Right.
We use a 5% hydrogen peroxide solution in our device, and that conjunctive with a 1/100th of 1% silver nitrate ion combining with the hydrogen peroxide produces what we call a reactive oxygen species, which is an OH radical, better known as a hydroxyl. Hydroxyls are almost the most powerful killing mechanism on the planet. It kills by lysing the cell wall of the microorganism and destroying the RNA. And as soon as that happens, it turns into water and oxygen evaporates. So it's a totally green product with a greater than 6 log kill, which for most people who don't understand that is 99.
No, there's so much over my head right now, Joe. I'm drowning here.
99.9999% of all known pathogens will be killed by this process.
So basically what that means, Larry, is it's going to kill everything that could possibly make you sick. And the reason why Mike and Rob and I were drawn to this product is basically for use in our mold remediation.
Right, yeah.
That was kind of why Mike had first contacted John, and we started the whole idea of getting involved in this. And then the more we talk to John, the more we can find out as far as the extent that this can be used in, and that's the variety of things that this can be used for.
How is it applied?
It's applied with a fogger. It's called a halo fogger. It's about 18 by 18 by 41 inches, weighs about 50 pounds. The solution, the 5% hydrogen peroxide solution, along with the silver nitrate, is placed in a 2-gallon reservoir. You put it in the corner of a room. There's certain room prep that has to be done, such as a gross contaminant clean to get food and debris and dirt off the floor, because we want to get any bioburden that would be under those that particulate, so we can reach any potential pathogens that would be there.
Right.
And then you want to seal the room, tape the doors, and close off the HVAC system to prevent any disruptive airflows. The mist that comes out of the ionized nozzle is a homogeneous mist that's positively charged, which means that the ions repel each other aggressively and go up, around, and under all exposed surfaces.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I mean, lots of questions. I mean, can I stop you a lot?
Absolutely.
What does homogeneous actually mean?
Homogeneous means that the mist itself is very consistent in the way it's dispersed. The particles are approximate to each other based on the chemical action, and as long as they stay in that particular without the airflows disrupting that, they get in very effectively to all the corners. Now, in a room this size, for example, we could fog this in about 10 minutes, and it would go up around the window treatments, up under all exposed surfaces, under your desk, because they repel each other and they adhere to those surfaces.
So this room, for our radio listeners, this is about a 20 by 9 room with an 8-foot tall ceiling.
Right. So
could be fogged in how long?
Probably in about 12 minutes.
Now, if this was a hospital room, that would be really important to get all those germs up, obviously, because somebody in that predicament is going to be real susceptible, is that the word, to for whatever germs might be in there, right?
Exactly. Well, I don't think there's anybody that's in your listening audience right now that doesn't have a friend or a relative that has had an unfortunate hospital experience with MRSA, MRSA.
Oh man, or
worse,
in the news.
Or worse yet would be C. diff with Clostridium difficile, which is a very nasty bug that can be fatal. And also there's norovirus, which heretofore was thought of as a cruise ship malady, but now has migrated into the hospital and community setting and is becoming almost the biggest concern in healthcare now because it is so contagious. It can go into a nursing home, for example, and decimate that home in a couple of days to the point of shutdown.
Is this a solution to some of those horror stories that we hear? There was one young girl, I think in Volusia County, went and gave birth to a baby. She was in the hospital only for that. And they had to remove all 4 of her limbs because she got some kind of an infection.
Well, that's a different staph. It's called necrotizing fasciitis, and that is the most virulent form of the bugs that you read about, and of course the most dramatic. I don't know if you recall, but Jim Henson of the Muppets fame, who died many years ago, was the first one to die of necrotizing fasciitis. And really, nobody really know that then. But those cases are unique. The ones that most people, the laymen, are concerned about in a hospital environment or even community settings now are MRSA, MRSA, which is methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, C. diff, norovirus. And there's a number of other bugs coming across that are receiving a lot of attention now that are called CRBs, which are carbapenem-resistant bacteria. And the reason they're so nasty is that carbapenem is the drug of last resort now. It's the leading-edge antibiotic that kills the most violent and virulent of these pathogens. And these bugs are resistant to that. So consequently, the rate of death or mortality associated with these infections is 50 to 70%. Very dangerous bug. There's about 200 hospitals and a number of other facilities that have encountered this pathogen. There's high degree of concern.
So, Joe, make the connection between what you do at damage control and how you're working together.
Well, that's where, originally it was thought that we could use this for a mold application, any type of mold remediation. So when we go into an environment that there is mold, our job is to get rid of the mold. So that includes cleaning, getting rid of all of the material that has the mold, and then we use chemicals, mildicides, in order to spray these areas down. With this product, and pretty much the whole time we're in there, we have got to be wearing protective equipment. A full face mask and ventilators, or
I've seen you on Facebook with that stuff.
Right, exactly. So with this equipment, basically it kills all that. So we could go into a moldy environment, set this machine up, and kill all of the mold. Be able to go in and do all the remediation, just like we are right here, actually.
Okay.
Wouldn't have to use all of the protective gear. There's certain stuff we would want to use, but and that is our job once we go into an environment, to make it as clean as we can, and then we get the indoor air quality test afterwards to make sure, following the protocol, to make sure that the environment is safe and mold-free. With this technology, we'll be able to guarantee that our job is done whenever we turn over the product or turn over the house.
I don't know if this is a stupid or a superficial question, but somebody's listening right now. They understand what you're saying. They understand how hydrogen peroxide can kill germs, because a lot of us use it for that, right? But it also will cause fabric to fade. Is that part of what you mentioned something about preparing the room before you use it? Would the carpet fade, for example, if we didn't? How do you protect the furniture and things like that, or do you just remove the furniture?
Well, you really don't have to do that, because you're looking at only a 5% hydrogen peroxide. Peroxide's an oxidative chemical, as you're aware, but in the concentrations that we use it in, it is not a factor. Some of our competitors that happen to be very expensive use a very high concentration of hydrogen peroxide, 35%, which can be very oxidative and very, very substrate degradative, to include discoloration of carpet and furniture. At this concentration, during the fogging process, the mist becomes ionized, the hydrogen peroxide turns to hydroxyls. At the end of the process, it's water and oxygen, and all the substrates and carpets and everything will not be affected, to include sensitive electronics. So you can leave keyboards, any medical equipment, pulse ox monitors, anything of that nature in the room, which will, by the way, be contaminated at the same time. So, and if you want to put additional products in there, such as stretchers and wheelchairs, which are also large sources of cross-contamination when they're moving these devices from room to room.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing.
So we encourage our healthcare customers to set up an anti-room or something of that nature and put these movable objects, the wheelchairs, the stretchers, the IV poles, and the other devices that move from room to room, which typically are not decontaminated on a regular basis. You give them a weekly fogging process, and that ensures that those are, at least for a period of time, decontaminated. Now, keep in mind, this process does not offer any sort of residual protection. It kills all the bioburden, the existing colony-forming units of bacteria on any device or surface. However, the next day, an infected person come in and touch that surface, and it will be cross-contaminated. But you're starting with a very low concentration of colony-forming units, rather than 10 million, and you got 1 million.
Do you demonstrate for the customers that there is indeed fewer germs? Is there a petri dish or something that you use? Or?
Well, you can. We have our product is EPA registered. That it is a decontamination of the Pesticide and Roticide Act. So what that entails is the manufacturer has submitted all of his third-party testing for all the different bugs, which are all the ones I mentioned, plus all the staph, the Pseudomonas, the H1N1, H5N1, all the other viruses that are on the EPA label. And the protocol for the fogging process and the bugs showing the killing efficacy have to be accepted by the EPA. And we have additional testing on other bugs that are being submitted to the EPA now. And once that's on the label, then we can advertise and promulgate the fact that we kill them. We have testing for it, but we legally can't say that until the EPA accepts them. But we know that we kill it. There's no known pathogen that can defeat this process. So
you can't do a swab of something?
Yes. We have customers, for example, that have a specific bug that they want to kill. If we don't have a test for it, we can put in what they call a biological indicator, which is typically usually a stainless steel coupon. It has 6 logs of bugs on it, which is 1 million bugs. And we'll hang them in different portions of the room. And we will do testing. They will open them up, take them out of their sleeves. We will fog. There will be a chain of custody that will be taken to a lab and tested to make sure there is no growth. If there's no growth, that means that all the pathogens on that biological indicator were killed, and that the process is doing as effective as we say it is.
So you have germs on coupons?
Well, they're called coupons, but they're little stainless steel. They're called coupons in the industry. It's not really a coupon per se, but there are germs on coupons.
I'm taking mental notes and retaining very little, by the way.
But in lieu of that, Larry, you can, some people that are using, now we can do up to 10,000 cubic feet in one session, one machine. We also have chemical indicators, which are basically starch indicators that we can put in different parts of the room. And if the starch indicator turns purple, that means that the concentration of the hydrogen peroxide fog is high enough to affect a kill. So,
all right. So I have a question, Joe.
Yeah.
Damage has a new definition. Suddenly you have a new thing. My home could be damaged because somebody was sick in it.
Yes.
And the damage is invisible, more or less. And that's where this comes into play. I'm sorry, I forget your name.
John Barton.
It's an easy name to remember, too.
Absolutely.
John. It's one to forget.
John controls the damage. Your damage control. He controls the damage that is invisible. I mean, it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
You bring a germ home or something.
That's what John was saying. I mean, we all know people that are sick. Last week, I got a phone call of a dear friend of mine. She said that her mom was in the hospital, and down South Florida, and came home and had, she got MRSA while she was in the hospital. So now they've got to, treat her home, clean everything, and we're able to help with that.
All right, this is maybe another dumb question. If I was in the room when you did this and I inhaled, would it kill the germs inside of me?
You always ask such good questions.
That is a very good question, actually, because I actually use the Sanisil S10 solution. By the way, the solution that goes in the fogger can be sprayed on a surface with the same efficacy. I happen to use the S10 solution for a variety of things. I gargle it. I use it in a neti pot because I have sinus problems.
Yeah, right.
I do all sorts. I've actually swallowed it. So typically that's not going to be a problem. But fogging is a mist. You do not want to be in the room during the fogging process. I myself have taken it upon, for my own edification, to stay in a room during a fogging process. And it turns out that it's a mild lung irritant, and it turned my hair orange. But I wouldn't want to do it on multiple basis.
Orange.
Well, no, I cut it and then it came back, but not as full
your facial hair and your head hair?
Well, this is about a year ago, and I didn't have any facial hair. So.
Every hair on your body, or just
on my head, because the rest was But no, that's what it is. So the thing is, it's 5%. You don't want to use it on an exposed basis, but and the EPA limit on hydrogen peroxide vapor is 1 part per million. So the room has to be aspirated properly before it's reoccupied. We do that by opening the doors and turning on the HVAC system. Or if immediate reoccupation is necessary, we can attach a scrubber with carbon-activated charcoal filters that'll scrub the room down in a matter of minutes down to the residual PEL limit. So a lot of ways to go, but it's a very effective product. And I might add that this technology has been around for about 10 or 15 years, but most of the devices that delivered this hydrogen peroxide were well north of $50,000 for the device. This device is relatively inexpensive at around a $4,000 retail, and it delivers the same kill efficacy as these expensive devices. So this allows companies like Joe's company, Damage Control Services, to now offer a product that was usually dedicated to high-end academic and BSL labs and high-end healthcare facilities. Now the average layman in a variety of settings, to include schools, health clubs, prisons and jails, municipal transportation, all the other applications can now have the advantage of having a very effective pathogen killer.
But hospitals have already had it. I mean, obviously hospitals have equipment that's worth $500,000, so they must have been able to afford this.
No, actually, most hospitals do not pay attention to healthcare-acquired infections, unfortunately, at the moment.
That's their job.
Well, yes, it is, but unfortunately, the bottom line is driven not by altruism, but by the almighty dollar.
Did you leave them a brochure?
Well, I have, yes. We've been involved with hospitals for a while. The problem is
so they are. Now they use them?
Well, some do, some don't.
But ours, the ones here.
Well, no. I think there's some other technologies out there, UV light systems that are around. I'm not sure if they use those or not. But the point is that hospital-acquired infections are not being reimbursed by Medicare or Medicaid now. So in other words, a patient that has a post-op MRSA infection in a hospital that, if he lives, could be there 3 to 4 weeks is probably about $10,000 a week. Heretofore, that would be paid for by Medicare. Now, if they can identify it through a protocol in the post-op drug regimen and so on, that will not be paid for, and they can't bill the patient. So that revenue generator now becomes goes the other side on the bottom line. So all of a sudden, hospitals have to start paying attention to more proactive protocols to prevent the infections in the first place, rather than reacting to them and have to not get paid for a post-op MRSA or VRE or C. diff infection. But that takes time. It's a pure weight of the system that has to start making hospitals start to pay attention to preventive types of infection control.
Does it get into the, I'll use an English muffin term, does it get into the nooks and crannies of the carpets and like the porous things like the ceiling tiles and things?
No,
like
this is the designation is on pre-cleaned hard surfaces. You are going to get a certain degree of penetration in carpet, but it's just on the top layers and the tiles. We can't get into nooks and crannies, but on all pre-cleaned hard surfaces, everything on that surface is dead.
Do you remember? I don't know if this is still a problem, but there was a big thing about, is it rayon or radon? The stuff that was coming up from the ground.
Radon.
Radon. Okay, you don't hear about that anymore. What was that? Was that real? Were we being duped to believe that we had to have a treatment?
I think radon's something to do with a natural and decontamination of radioactive elements in the soil in certain geographical areas that are more prone to having emissions from that decomposition activity than others. And I'm not sure.
But there was a test. There was a test, though.
I'm not sure if that area is a problem here.
And I know that's not what you're talking about here, but it just reminded me of that. There was a test at that time that everybody was being encouraged to take to make sure you didn't have that in your house.
There are test kits that you can still get for radon testing. You can get them at Home Depot and Lowe's, places like that. So, I mean, there's also and a friend of mine in Gainesville, she's got one for the home, an alarm, a radon alarm. So, a friend of mine in Dunellen, they had an alarm. It was going off. They had a basement, and so the basement had higher levels of radon in it. So, there's not a lot of it here, but there are.
But is there a remedy for it?
I know there are remediation, services for radon. I'm not real familiar with how you.
I mean, change the subject. So it's called Medifact.
I'm sorry. The name of our company is Medifact Incorporated.
Medifact.
We are
MEDIFACT.
MED, second word EFFECT, Medifact.
Oh, Medifact. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Now, if somebody's listening and they just want that, let's say the tree didn't fall on their house, do they call you, Joe?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. We are now able to. Able to help with that kind of stuff.
Are we allowed to talk prices, or do you want to keep that?
Well, prices are predicated typically on a number of factors, and that's the size of the facility, the number of rooms, the frequency. It's like anything when you're responding to an emergency. But the thing is that Joe's facility, Damage Control Services, is now an authorized service provider for this technology, so they can address any one of these vertical markets, daycare centers, any place where there's a MRSA, norovirus, or any other type of infection, rhino, H1N1. They can address that, and they will mitigate and decontaminate any facility or room that has any of these pathogens. Anything in that room will be dead, and they will not have an ongoing problem unless it's recontaminated. Now, we recommend setting up entities on a regular service basis.
Well, if you had like a daycare center, children, especially, anybody really, I mean, that would seem like the likely place for something to be done on a regular basis. So, what do you recommend? Every month, every week? How often do you do it?
Well, a lot of it's predicated on the history of the facility. In other words, they have a history of a lot of infections. What types of infections they have? Is it just rhinovirus, or do they have more? They have a hepatitis scare.
What
does the
rhinovirus look like, by the way?
Well, viruses are they're microscopic.
I'm just picturing, that
it has a little horn.
They look like a little some look like paramecium with their.
Does it really?
Yeah, that's about it.
For real? Okay.
See, the nice thing about what we have with Damage Control Services, we've got John. John lives here locally, and any problems or questions, situations that we come into, we've got access to him.
No, that's a great thing. And
so, he's been with this company and this technology for quite some time now. So, as we come across anything that a listener or a customer has, any questions, we're able to get the answers. You're not. I'm not going to have to guess. I can call him and get the proper answer.
Could you do the inside like of a van, of a vehicle, a car, or something?
Yes, medical transport vehicles are an excellent source. I shouldn't say excellent. They are a significant source of cross-contamination.
You're going to get an ambulance after the last guy.
Well, you take a MRSA patient out of a hospital and they're transporting him to the doctor. Well, guess what? They're going to do a terminal clean on that ambulance maybe once a day or once a week. They're only going to get 50% of the bioburden in there. So that ambulance is still contaminated. We can put the halo fogger inside an ambulance and decon it in 5 minutes.
The halo fogger. That's what
it's called. The halo fogger.
All right. So, any ballpark figure? Let's say. Let me give you an example. Just picture the average play area of a daycare center where all the kids congregate. What would that cost me?
Well, keep in mind it has to be enclosed. First of all, it has to be inside. So
well, that's what I mean.
The open area. Well,
like
once again, I'm reticent to quote prices because every company has their own infrastructure and what they charge for services. So it's really hard to give a ballpark on what it would cost. But let's put it this way: they're receiving an exceptional service, something they would not be able to get from any other kind of manual clean. Guaranteed, it's touchless, no human error involved in killing, and we guarantee that everything in that room at that point after fogging is dead.
Right.
So that's a big advantage.
So no dollar amounts.
What that is worth is a perceived value that I think Joe and his group will probably set up fee schedules, and we've just started to embark on this technology. So, by the way, Larry, I'd like to point out that this particular technology also can be used for animals, such as equine issues. Parvo, we have a parvovirus test for a variety of bugs that are associated with animal labs. Vivariums, rodents have a lot of parvo problems, but with the equine population here in this county, there was just an equine herpes outbreak in one of the facilities out there that quarantined over 500 horses, much to the chagrin of many of the owners, for a week or 10 days. That's a lot of money tied up. We kill all those microorganisms as well. So don't consider this service just for human facilities. Can also be for animal facilities, to include stalls and veterinary facilities.
All right. Wow. Sounds like you're doing a good job of making people healthy. So the damage, the definition of damage has expanded beyond trees and wind and water and
a little expansion. And this is done for cents. Literally a few cents per cubic foot. So it's not as expensive as some people might be thinking.
Yeah. Well, and I actually had.
Then it depends too on the amount of decontamination that needs to be done too.
Yeah. I was putting myself in the shoes of the guy who owns the daycare down the road here, who likes to put everything in lamination. Did you ever meet this guy? Real nice guy, but everything is laminated.
Okay.
Tree leaves, loose leaf paper, construction. Everything is laminated. Don't know why. Everything's.
I don't know.
Well, keep in mind, there any of these facilities that have problems with, like daycare centers, the transit nature, the children that come and go. Well, over and above the people, the customers that come in there, the employees are also compromised in many cases, which makes it very difficult to set up schedules and keep businesses running when the employees are constantly sick. So there's double advantage here in preventive activity associated with this fogging process to keep everybody healthy.
All right.
So any questions, you can give me a call. This is Joe, 817-6574, or you can email me, joe@damageflorida.com.
Good show. Joe and John, thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
Good stuff. We'll take a little break and be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala. ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. Investigators are trying to determine what caused a fatal training accident at Nevada's Hawthorne Army Depot. 7 Marines from North Carolina's Camp Lejeune training there were killed in an explosion during a live mortar firing exercise. Several others were wounded. Pope Francis is taking on the trappings of his new job. In his installation ceremony at the Vatican, he donned the fisherman's ring and a wool stole to symbolize his role as shepherd of the flock of 1.2 billion Catholics. Jurors in suburban Detroit have asked to rehear a critical 911 call as they deliberate the fate of a 75-year-old woman who shot and killed her grandson. She says she acted in self-defense after he struck her and demanded money. About a third of the nation is